there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Canal Algérie's English News Edition. I'm your host, Karim Fazakri. To the headlines. At the invitation of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, the President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, Mohammed Ould Sheikh Al Ghazouani, pays an official 3-day state visit to Algeria. Border crossings and historical relations between Algeria and Mauritania allow the two countries to sustain strong bilateral relations in different sectors. Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, Lieutenant General Saeed Chengri chairs the installation ceremony of Major General Abdelaziz Houam as the new commander of the Territorial Air Defense Forces in replacement of Major General Ammar Amrani. Good evening, those were today's top stories. First in our news, at the invitation of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, the President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, Mohammed Ould Sheikh Al Ghazouani, will be paying an official 3-day state visit in Algeria as of Monday, the 27th, till the 29th of December. This visit is part of the efforts to strengthen bilateral ties and step up cooperation between the two countries. Moving on. The border crossings and the historical relations existing between Algeria and Mauritania allowed the two countries to sustain strong bilateral relations in different sectors, notably for commercial exchanges. Details with Manal Maaf.
The deeply rooted Algerian-Mauritanian relations are not only distinguished by their brotherly nature, but also by their long history. Considering the geographical advantage, the joint borders of almost 460 kilometers paved the way for both countries to have cooperation relations in many sectors. A one-of-a-kind bilateral relationship with common interests that reflects a striking form of cohesion existing between the two brotherly peoples. And to further strengthen this relationship, a memorandum of understanding was signed aiming to create a joint Algerian-Mauritanian border commission. This decision is the embodiment of both countries' leaders' will to raise the level of security relations as a move to better serve the countries' common interests and develop the border region. The Mauritanian President Mohammed Ould Sheikh Al Ghazouani's visit to Algeria is an additional step toward building a sustained cooperation between Algiers and Nouakchott. Currently, the relations between Algeria and Mauritania are experiencing an unprecedented activity in many sectors, namely in the socio-economic and security sectors, as proved by the intensification of the diplomatic and military visits paid by the representatives of the two countries. The economic and trade relations existing between the two countries are also of a great importance, as 20% of Mauritanian imports are from Algeria. It is worth mentioning that border crossings play a major role in strengthening the economic cooperation. It will help accelerate the pace in the works of the road project linking Tindouf and Zouarate, and eventually have a direct impact on the region's development. As for Tindouf's logistics base, which has been operational since 2018, it also highly contributes to trade development between the two countries. On the agenda of the Mauritanian President's visit to Algeria, several issues will be discussed and examined between the President of the Republic and his Mauritanian counterpart, with the aim of signing joint agreements to expand and strengthen the cooperation scope between Algeria and Mauritania.
The border crossing linking Algeria with Mauritania is a great asset through which volume of trade between the two brotherly countries doubled in 2020, as no less than 140 export operations were completed. More details with Rania Al-Bahri.
At the border crossing linking Algeria and Mauritania, all means are deployed to facilitate and speed up procedures for freight carriers. Everything is going well at this border crossing, whether it's with customs or with border police. Started operating 3 years ago, this border crossing has made it possible since then to boost trade activities between Algeria and Mauritania and also West African countries. During the year 2020, 140 export operations were recorded. 248 operations were carried out last July. Thus, commercial activities doubled thanks to various facilitation granted by public authorities to Algerian exporters and economic operators, such as tax exemption compensation of 50% per transported cargo, as well as the support given to exporters by trade sector services, which immediately established the certificate of origin of goods available to exporters. Commercial exchanges between the two countries should be consolidated once the road leading from the border crossing to the town of Zouirat in Mauritania is completed. Algerian products are very popular and in demand in Mauritania and in all neighboring countries due to their quality and their competitive prices. The demand for them will increase once the road is completed. Everything is going well at this border crossing. However, the road conditions to Zouirat is a real problem. It's a hamad of 800 kilometers long and it's impracticable. This border crossing is not only very important for Algeria, but also for West African countries. It will allow Algerian economic operators to conquer African markets in the near future.
The chairman of People's National Assembly or Lower House of Parliament, Brahim Boughali, stressed the necessity to promote parliamentary performance so as to implement the required change and meet the aspirations and ambitions of all Algerians in building a new republic. Chairing a consultation meeting with presidents, MPs and reporters of the standing committees of the People's National Assembly, Boughali highlighted that MPs are called upon now more than ever to promote their parliamentary performance with the aim of better representing citizens who trusted them with their votes and so as to implement changes Algerians aspire for. Moving on now, in the international cooperation field, Minister of Finance Ayman bin Abdurrahman received the Director General of the Arab League Educational, Cultural and Scientific Organization, Alexo, Mohammed Wald Ammar, who is on a visit to Algeria to partake in the 18th Conference of Ministers and Officials of Higher Education and Scientific Research in the Arab world. Their talks were an occasion for reviewing future horizons of cooperation between Algeria and Alesco, notably in developing higher education and scientific research and all that relates to initiatives on the agenda on the conference, as well as the role of the universities and educational bodies as an impetus of social and economic development. The audience took place in the presence of the Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research, Abdelbaki Ben Ziyan. On behalf of the President of the Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense Abdelmajid Tebboune, Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, Lieutenant General Said Chengriha, chaired on Sunday, December 26, 2021, the installation ceremony of Major General Abdelaziz Houam as the new commander of the Territorial Air Defense Forces in replacement of Major General Ammar Amrani. More details with Manal Ammari.
After the welcoming ceremony, the Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, Lieutenant General Said Chengriha, observed a moment of silence in memory of one of Algeria's Liberation War martyrs, Colonel Lotfi, whose name is borne by the headquarters of the High Command of the Territorial Air Defense Forces, and laid a wreath at his commemorative stele, before reciting the Fatiha, or the opening chapter of the Holy Quran, in respect of Algeria's martyrs, following which Lieutenant General Said Chengriha inspected formation squares of executives and personnel of the Territorial Air Defense Force at the place of arms, before announcing the official installation of the new commander of the Territorial Air Defense Forces, Major General Abdelaziz Houam, in replacement of Major General Ammar Amarani.
On behalf of the President of the Republic, Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, and in accordance with the Presidential Decree of December the 20th, 2021, I hereby officially install Major General Abdelaziz Houam in his new duty of Commander of the Territorial Air Defense Forces, replacing Major General Ammar Amarani, To this end, I order you to operate under his authority and execute his orders and instructions in accordance with military regulations and applicable laws, honoring the sacrifices of Algeria's liberation war martyrs and its values.
After approving the power-handing over minutes, the Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, Lieutenant General Said Chingriha, met with executives and personnel of the High Command of the Territorial Air Defense Forces, where he made an orientation speech, broadcast via video conferencing to all units under this High Command, during which he congratulated the new commander who, for the record, devoted his whole life to serving the National People's Army as well as Algeria.
As you know, under the command of President of the Republic, Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, Abdelmajid Tebboune, and thanks to efforts of its loyal man, Algeria has known lately a real dynamic on all levels, especially on the diplomatic, political and economic scenes, and even sports, by the crowning of the national football team with the FIFA Arab Cup a few days ago, which was the occasion to express the fervent nationalist spirit of millions of Algerians who went out to celebrate this deserved victory in the cities and towns. It was also an opportunity through which the valiant Algerian people proved its authenticity, its unwavering attachment to symbols of the motherland, and their loyalty to the legacy of Algeria's liberation war martyrs. A strong and clear response to yesterday's enemies, as well as to all those who venture to question the unity of the people or the love it has for the nation. On this occasion, I reiterate in my own name and that of all the personnel of the National People's Army the expression of our gratitude to the national football team and its technical staff for the spirit they showed for this competition, as this historical sports achievement is a most precious gift the players bestowed their nation and its people.
The Lieutenant General highlighted that this dynamic greatly contributed to Algerian citizens regaining confidence in state institutions and leading them to wholeheartedly support these institutions with promising futures.
These achievements and this dynamic greatly helped the Algerian citizens to regain confidence in the institutions of the state and have pushed them to embrace with enthusiasm its promising projects. Citizens who are more aware of current international and regional issues and who discern more clearly the plots against Algeria.
The Chief of Staff of the National People's Army then urged the attending military personnel to strive for continuous preparedness, active training, and mastery of military equipment and modern weaponry systems of the National People's Army.
The Territorial Air Defense Forces are assigned strategic sensitive missions which require permanent work in terms of continuous preparation and efficient training, especially as the missions of the Territorial Air Defense Forces are closely linked to the degree of mastery of modern equipment and weapons available. And moreover, I do count on your consciousness, your motivation and readiness to successfully accomplish missions assigned to you.
At the end of the ceremony, the Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, Lieutenant General Said Chingriha, listened to interventions of executives and personnel of the Territorial Air Defense Forces and inquired about their concerns.
Arab ministers of higher education and scientific research gathered in Algiers at the Abdellatif Rahali International Conference Center, CIC. This 18th conference is organized under the theme of Higher Education and Scientific Research in the Arab World by 2030, Vision and Orientation, in partnership with the Arab League, Educational, Cultural and Scientific Organization Alexo. The details in what follows.
This first day was marked by experts' interventions who discussed many topics related to higher education and scientific research in Arab countries. For a period of 2 days, a roadmap will be developed in order to be examined in the meeting of the Arab Ministers of Education, which will be held on Tuesday. This meeting is a part of a cooperation framework. It aims to shed light on higher education training and scientific research systems in the Arab countries. Held as a joint partnership with the Arab Education, Cultural and Scientific Organization, this meeting is an opportunity to bring forward the common projects with the aim to develop higher education and scientific research in the Arab countries, where the setting up of partnerships between universities and research laboratories is also of a great importance. A fruitful partnership exists between the Qatari and Algerian universities, where the Algerian competences successfully marked their presence. The experts' meeting comes in anticipation of the meeting of Arab ministers of higher education, which will be crowned by a series of recommendations.
And that was Manal Maafa reporting. Algeria participated in the 25th session of the Arab Telecommunication and Information Council of Ministers, which was held by video conferencing and attended by several Arab ministers and officials. Algeria is keen to participate in the meetings of the specialized Arab councils to enhance cooperation and exchange opinions, experiences and recommendations in order to unify efforts and positions in international meetings. The Minister of Post and Telecommunications, Karim Bibitriki, reviewed Algeria's efforts in terms of information, telecommunications technologies and the postal sectors and making their access generalized to all citizens in an equitable manner. Moving on now, 261 new confirmed cases of coronavirus, 196 recoveries and 9 deaths were recorded in the last 24 hours in Algeria, according to a communiqué by the Ministry of Health. More than 6,000 flights have been cancelled worldwide over the long Christmas weekend, and thousands more were delayed as highly infectious Omicron variant brings holiday hurt to millions. Globally, airlines scrapped about 2,400 flights down. Pilots, flight attendants and other employees have been calling in sick or having to quarantine after exposure to COVID-19. The special envoy for Western Sahara and Maghreb countries, Ammar Bilani, called the alleged new map, including the occupied territory of Western Sahara, and which the Arab League would have adopted, a gross manipulation and an empty deception of Morocco. Bilani specified that this unified map that does not mention the borders of the member states is new, and it was always displayed on the official website of the Arab League, adding that the same map was adopted by the Maghreb Arab Union. Units of the Sahrawi People's Liberation Army carried out new attacks against the occupying forces in the sectors of Mahbas and Hawza. The army targeted the entrenchments of the Moroccan occupying forces in different regions along the Wall of Shame. The South African President Cyril Ramaphosa announced that South Africa's retired Archbishop and anti-apartheid icon Desmond Tutu passed away aged 90. He was a Nobel Peace Prize laureate and veteran of South Africa's struggle against white minority rule. The president expressed on behalf of all South Africans his profound sadness as he said, quote, "The passing of Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu is another chapter of bereavement in our nation's farewell to all generation of outstanding South Africans who have bequeathed us a liberated South African," unquote. And that's the end of our news. Thank you for keeping it here. Good night.